Thank you guys all so much for being here today. My name is James Mann. I think many of you know me already, but for those of you that don't, I'm the Global Marketing Director for Student Management Group. Um, we've been running these webinars for the last couple of weeks, and we're going to continue to run them for the next few months while everybody, for the most part, is working from home. But I hope you're all doing well. I hope everyone is healthy. We actually had Mother's Day here in the United States on Sunday, so I wanted to wish a happy Mother's Day to any of the mothers that are here. I know it's a different date in Europe, but we just celebrated here in the United States on Sunday. And today I'm going to be covering the Student Management Group Canadian program. It's a high school program like every other Student Management Group program. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we covered F1 Public. Today will be the Canadian high school program, and actually next week we'll be doing one. It'll be presented by my colleague Diana on the F1 private high school programs as well. We sent an invitation for that one yesterday. I'm sure there will be another a reminder that goes out next week. But if you're interested in attending that webinar, please let me know if you didn't get the invitation so I can make sure you can get it and register. But today we are going to cover our friendly neighbors to the north of us. I'm based in New York, where the Student Management Group headquarters is, and we run our Canadian high school program out of the New York office with partnerships all across Canada. I just hear, I think someone has their microphone on. If everyone could just mute their mics, please. All right, there we go. So like I said, today we're going to talk about the Canadian high school program. This program, I just want to make sure I didn't mute myself. Okay, good. This program is flexible, similar to the program that I talked about 2 weeks ago in the United States, F1 Public, in that it's a flexible choice program. It's high school, like everything that SMG does. But the Canadian program is special. It's a program that I run, I oversee. I manage all the partnerships with the schools and the homestays, and as well as marketing with our agent partners. So this is the program that I have the most close involvement with. And I've had the privilege of working on this program for about 5 years since I started for SMG. And I've been so happy with how the program has developed and the experiences that we've been able to provide to our previous students that have enrolled. We're always adding new districts to the program. Actually in the process of adding a few right now, but we have about 36 districts all across Canada that we're offering. We do accept younger students, but of course, like with all SMG programs, we're more focused on the high school aged students, which is ages 14 to 18 and a half. But what makes the SMG Canada program special? Canada itself has one of the top ranked public education systems in the world. So if you look at our list of schools, you'll see that it's primarily public schools. We do have a few private schools, but we're in this program much more focused on the public schools because we find that, or I've found that the public school system in Canada is excellent, and the support of international students is especially terrific as well. They just support the students so well. The programs are really well established there for international students. The communities themselves are very welcoming of international students as well. So it's really a special program, particularly for international students, because the academics, the athletics are really great, but also the communities themselves are really welcoming and prepared to support international students. Canada also has a very high standard of living. So all of the districts that we work with, I've visited them all personally. I've seen the communities that they're in. I've seen the classrooms and the cafeterias and the facilities of the schools, and met with the administrators of the schools. And the communities themselves are really safe and tight-knit. There's a lot of suburban neighborhoods. I mean, we have all different types of districts. We have districts in urban areas, in rural areas, and then in suburban areas as well. There's generally, if we avoid the urban districts, there's limited influence from outside cultures. So it's very authentic Canadian experience at many of the districts that we offer. Of course, if students want to go to a place like Toronto or Vancouver, it'll be a lot more multicultural, which is not a bad thing. It actually just depends on really what type of experience your students are seeking. There are diverse climates in Canada. I know mostly everyone, when they think of Canada, they just think of snow and mountains and forests and very cold weather. And there's certainly plenty of that in Canada, but that's not all there is. There's quite a bit of different options in terms of the climates. If we go to British Columbia, particularly the southern part and Vancouver area, it's definitely a lot more temperate. It doesn't quite snow there. And so it's not all cold, snowy mountain landscape, although there is plenty of that for any students that are looking for that type of experience. But there's really a lot of different options, and that's the point that I'm trying to make, is we can really accommodate students that are looking for any type of climate and experience in this program. And then, of course, from the administrative side, the Canadian study permit is really quite flexible in renewing, in applying for it the first time, and going through the process, which makes the application process pretty simple. And we'll, of course, as Student Management Group does with all of our programs, provide all the documentation and support that you need in order to acquire the study permit for your students. So what makes SMG Canada special? We've worked to secure partnerships with the best school districts all across Canada. And that's something that I've worked on personally for the last 5 years and continue to work on to this day. And we're always, making sure that our partnerships are with schools that can support international students, that can provide a high quality experience. And we also make sure that our partnerships with those districts are very personal. And that's a big part of what I do, to make sure that the SMG students that go to these districts are well supported. Many of our districts are located in desirable communities, resort towns. We, of course, have big city districts as well. So we really have districts in every type of community across Canada. It really does depend on the type of community that your students are looking for. And that's the type of program that this is. It's meant to be a personalized, tailored program for the individual student based on their capabilities, their goals, and the type of experience that they're looking to have. SMG as an organization, we've been offering high school programs in North America for over 30 years. The Canadian high school program we've been doing for about 12 years. And it's one of our fastest growing programs. I would consider it one of our most successful programs. And it's a program that I feel, privileged to get to work on, because our partners in Canada, the schools are so wonderful. And it's really a privilege to get to see the experiences that we've provided for probably over 1,000 students over the last 5 years. Of course, one thing that we really strive for and that we place a lot of emphasis on for SMG is our support. So, working with SMG Canada, you'll be working with myself and my colleague, Megan, who's our student coordinator, program coordinator. She oversees applications and facilitates the students while they're on their programs. But one thing that we really place emphasis on is the service. So, of course, when you're in the process of trying to decide which districts to offer a student, I'll be able to help you every step of the way there and make recommendations and facilitate that whole process. But then also, once your students are enrolled on the SMG program, we provide 24/7 support for all of our students to make sure that they're having a safe and a successful experience as well. Because we have so many students in our program, we often get preferential treatment at certain districts. We get extra spaces at districts that tend to fill up early. And so there are a lot of benefits of working with SMG, particularly on the Canadian high school program. And I found over my 5 years that the placements, of course, the schools are fantastic, but also the host families and how early we are able to secure the host families in this program really make it special, and I think separate it from a lot of other high school programs around the world. So our program specifically, Like I said, we're more focused on the high school age students, which is ages 14 to 18 and a half approximately, but we do have other programs, and generally we can consider students ages 11 to 19. I've even been able to consider students that are even younger or even older than that in some cases. We place our students with caring and supportive host families. These host families are paid, like in our F1 public program that I discussed a few weeks ago. And like I said, in this program, we're focused primarily on public schools. So students are going to attend public schools all over Canada. We have various different program lengths. So anywhere really from about 1 month to 4 years are the types of programs that we can accommodate. Of course, the most common are going to be semester, 5 months, and academic year, 10 months. But we're really flexible with the program length. So if there's something specific that you're looking for, please just let me know, and we can certainly work to arrange a custom length program as well. We do quite a few 3-month options and quite a few 3-month programs each year as well. Students can return year after year. So in the United States, with public schools, we face that limitation where they can really only do a maximum of 1 year. Whereas with the Canadian high school program, we do not have that limitation. Students can go to public schools in Canada from multiple years. They can graduate. And we've actually had quite a few students that start out on a 3-month or a 5-month program, and they're enjoying their program so much that they decide to extend. And we've been able to, extend their program without them having to leave the country for the visa process, for the study permit, many times in the past. So for those students that are maybe a little nervous to commit right away to a full 10 months away from their mom and their dad and their friends back home, we can offer short-term options. And then once they realize how wonderful it is, and most students, that's the case, that's what happens, they're able to extend if they want to. And also, I can't remember if I mentioned this or not. If you guys have questions, there's going to be at least 15 to 20 minutes, possibly more, at the end. I'll allow questions. I'll make sure I stick around and answer all of your questions. I'm working from home, as I'm sure most of you are, and so I'm pretty flexible right now. I don't have anyone coming and knocking on my door, so I'll make sure I answer everybody's questions at the end. So if you have them, you can put them in the chat whenever you want, and then I'll read through them at the end and answer every single one. So the Canadian high school program, again, what else separates it from other high school programs around the world? And it's going to be, with a lot of the SMG programs, it's flexibility and choice, and that's what we've focused on for this Canadian high school program. That's why I'm always searching for new districts and new areas where we feel that the programs there meet the high level of quality, the high standard of quality that we've set for the program, but also allow us to offer some new and some exciting and different options for our students. And so in this program, the students are able to choose the community, they're able to choose the district, of course, but they're also able to choose the specific school. So when I send you recommendations on the Canadian high school program, I'll recommend districts, but within each district, there are certain schools. And depending on what your students are looking for, we can also recommend specific schools. But every brochure that we've put together for this program, and we're actually in the process right now of updating them, but every brochure that we have outlines every single school in the district when we're offering you a district. And each brochure for those schools outline, of course, the school itself, its facilities, the academics, the athletics. They'll also outline a little bit of information about the community, about the extracurricular activities and things like that are available to the students. So when we're making suggestions and recommendations for you, we're going to make sure that we provide you with some information that you can then present to the student, because we really want the students to make the most informed decision about where they're going and choose a district based on what they're looking for, because we find that if we do a lot of work up front to match the students with the right community and the right school, it tends to make the rest of our job a lot easier, because they're a lot happier once they arrive on the program and it is, kind of what they were expecting. We don't want anyone to be disappointed. In terms of athletics, we have almost every known sport available at, at one of our districts in the program. And that's really one of the benefits of working with us, because we have so many districts and so many schools. We can accommodate even the most obscure and unique of requests, which I can assure you I get pretty regularly. During normal times, I'll get at least one per week, a request that I've probably not seen before, for something very specific, like knitting, or I've had a request several times for basket weaving, which I didn't know was something that young people were interested in. But we were able to find a district that had a community offering for something like that, and we were able to assist that student, and that's a big part of what we do. But of course, sports are usually an important priority for many students, and we're able to place students at certain districts and certain schools based on athletic preferences. And we have pretty much every sport available. Of course, hockey and curling and skiing and a lot of those sports are, decidedly Canadian culturally practiced sports, but there's all the standard sports as well: basketball, soccer, football, volleyball, swimming. All of those are available as well. As long as we know that's what the student's looking for, we can find them probably several options throughout the program based on what they're seeking. We're also able to be super flexible with the English level on this program, and that's because every district that we offer has a few schools within the district that have a full ESL program, which allow us to consider and accept students with very low levels of English, and then successfully support them once they're in Canada to ensure that they're learning English and understanding what's happening in their classrooms so that they can be successful. And we also will take, very specific requests and note preferences for students that want something specific from their host family. Often I get a request, a common one would be, they want students or children in the home of a similar age, or they want younger children in the home because they have younger siblings at home in their home country and they want to continue having that. And we do our best to accommodate requests like that. I can't always guarantee that there will be a host family like that available, but we do always, we're always welcoming that information so that we can do our best to accommodate special requests. I've had requests for a few years ago now, this was probably 4 years ago, where we had a student request a host family that had a golden retriever dog, and we were able to do that. I remember laughing when I read the email thinking, I wonder if we just get them a placement with any dog, if that'll be okay. Why does it have to be a golden retriever? It ended up working out. We were able to make the placement. Stu was very happy. And I think that's a great example of really what we try to do with SMG Canada when we're getting those specific requests. If I can accommodate it, I certainly will. And I've surprised even myself a few times in some of the flexibility that we've been able to find in this program. Students can also choose specific classes. So if there are, very specific academic requests, robotics is one that I tend to see more and more often, or pre-med and all, all these things. Many of the districts we offer have academies, but they also have specialty courses, advanced placement courses, international baccalaureate. So there are tons of academic options throughout the program. It's, again, just a matter of being aware of what the students are seeking, and then we can match them with the right districts and the right schools that offer those specialty courses or academies that they're looking for. One thing that's different from the Canadian high school program when you compare it to the United States high school programs is that natural families are welcome to visit their students during the Canadian high school program year. I don't see it really happen that often, but it is permitted. And that's something that we generally are a little bit more strict on in the United States than we tend to be in Canada. So I just like to mention it. We can consider students with allergies or both physical or learning disabilities. Again, students, the more special requests a student has, the less options they're going to have from the overall program, but that doesn't mean we won't be able to find them a solution. And students, particularly students with allergies or special needs or learning disabilities, whatever it might be, we really can accommodate those. And it's something that we, again, place a lot of emphasis on. Just 2 years ago, we had a student who had a very specific hearing disability, and she had very specific equipment that she used to aid her hearing. She was perfectly capable in the classroom and ready to be successful on a program like this, but she just needed the accommodation of having a school where the classrooms were equipped with the right equipment for her hearing aids so that she could hear her teachers while they were teaching. And we went to all of our districts to try and find a solution for her, because she needed that. There was no way she could do the program without it. And we were able to find one school in Ontario at our Avon Maitland district that already had a student in their school, a Canadian student, with the same disability and using the same equipment. So the classrooms were already all equipped to accommodate this student. And so we were able to enroll her. She came, and she had a wonderful full academic year experience. And so I think that's a great example of really how we can support students that have special requests and even disabilities in a lot of cases. In terms of admissions, it's rolling admissions on this program, so there is no hard deadline. Of course, the later that students apply in the year, the more difficult it becomes to be flexible and to accommodate specific requests, but we can consider applications at any time of the year. We're still considering applications right now for the coming fall, for the September 2020 intake, which we still are proceeding right now with as if it's going to happen. We have a lot of encouragement from Canada and from just the way things are improving here, that hopefully programs will run in the fall as expected. Of course, no one knows right now, and I will set aside just a little bit of time at the end of the presentation to talk about that situation in general. For students that want to graduate, that's absolutely something that we can accommodate on this program. I have students that graduate from the SMG Canada high school program every year, and we of course can support convalidation for any of our students coming from countries that require that process. So the education in Canada, like I said before, public education system in Canada is one of the highest quality public education systems in the world. And that's really due to the great funding that the government provides for their public schools all throughout the country. There's a consistent high level of education that's offered in the public schools, and therefore that's why we focus more on them. Especially for international students, the public schools in Canada are going to be so much more affordable, and in my opinion, just as high a quality of an experience, or even a higher quality of an experience, than you'll get at a private school in Canada. So if you ever come to me for my advice and my opinion on any student request, unless they're specifically saying, I want a private boarding school, I'm going to be offering you public schools. I will never recommend a private school in Canada, knowing how high quality the public schools are and just how much more affordable they are as well. We have academic programs at many of our districts that are offered in both French and English. English instruction is definitely the most common, and that's typically what you'll find at most schools, but there are quite a few that also offer French instruction or French immersion. Graduation is available. Like I said, many students graduate every year. I generally suggest at least 2 years for students that are interested in graduating. It is possible in 1 year. We've had students do it in 1 year. They certainly have to be special students. They have to be academically capable. They have to have a good level of English, and they have to have enough credits from previous years in their home country or in other programs that allow them to graduate in 1 year. But any student can graduate in 2 years, as long as they put forth the required effort to do so. And so graduation is definitely a possibility in Canada. It's a very common achievement for many of our international students that participate on the program. And all the schools we work with offer university and college application assistance as well. So for those students that are graduating and perhaps want to continue their higher education in Canada, they'll have support and assistance on that as well in their school, so that their counselor can actually guide them on making the best decision for themselves, and then guide them through the process of actually trying to be admitted and completing an application. Sports academies. So I mentioned these just briefly, but this is, academies, not just sports academies, but academies in general, are becoming more and more common at a lot of our Canadian districts. And these are just specialty programs, essentially, that allow students to focus on something that they're especially passionate about. The most common types of academies, definitely the sports academies, and those are for the students that really want to participate in a specific sports program rather than like a traditional elective course. They can actually receive credit while participating in these sports academies, and often they'll get professional training and play at a very competitive level. There are varying levels for all of the academies, so that's something that we always want to take into account when we're talking about specific students. But there are so many different options with these academies and so many special things that we can do for the students. Of course, with the athletics, there are hockey academies at almost every district that we work with, but there's also soccer, baseball, we have sailing, skiing, football academies, volleyball academies. There's really quite a few. We have some gymnastic academies as well. So there's almost anything. And my general motto with SMG Canada is really just ask. It's always worthwhile to ask. It can't hurt to say, do they have this? Do they have a basket weaving academy? We don't, but I mean, there might be a basket weaving community offering. So those are the types of things that I always want to encourage all of you to not hold back. If there's something that your students are interested in, even if it seems like the most unique and obscure request, it's worthwhile to ask. And there's a pretty good chance we might be able to find a solution for you. But sports academies definitely offer an excellent option for students that are athletic and want to pursue a sport that they're passionate about at a higher competitive level while not really also losing any class time at the same time. So our schools, like I said, I can't say I've visited all of the schools. I have been in that cafeteria that you see in that picture there, Kelowna Secondary School. And that mural is really cool in person, just like it's cool in this photo here. But I've been to most of our schools and I've visited and I know all of our districts quite well, and all of them are constantly updating their facilities. They're equipped with the newest educational technologies. Most of the classrooms have smart boards. The science labs are renovated, and so we've really focused on making this a premium program, and the schools themselves reflect that, and the facilities are really high quality as well. And of course, the most important thing at any school when we talk about the education itself is the teachers. And every time I'm in Canada, I'm always so impressed with how passionate the teachers are, how excited they are to get international students. I mean, the culture in these schools that we work with in Canada is really geared towards welcoming the international community. They're so excited to have international students in their schools, making friends and exchanging ideas and culture with the students, but also with the teachers. And I see that every time I go to Canada. The school sizes themselves, the student populations range from 300 to 2,000 students per school. I would say the average is somewhere between 800 and 1,400. But again, if that's something that your students are focused on, so if they want a smaller school or if they want a larger school, just let us know, because that's something that we can easily give some guidance on. And of course, every school brochure that we have also has the student population posted right on the brochure so that the student knows, okay, this school has 800 students and I wanted a big school experience, and 800 isn't quite enough. I'd rather a school that's closer to 2,000, and then we can find them some options like that. Regardless of the student populations, though, the class sizes remain pretty small. They're typically between 20 and 30 students per class. And that's standard for most public schools in Canada. Some are a little smaller than that. But no matter what, all the students in really any of the schools that we work with get personalized support if they need it. They have counselors available for them during the school day. And so, of course, supporting the students is always going to be something that we place a lot of emphasis on. And, when I'm working with districts and looking for new schools to work with, that's always one of my first questions, and one of the things that I want to be certain the school can offer. So probably the most important part of any exchange program is going to be where the students live. And in the SMG Canada program, we do have a handful of boarding options, but 95% of our options are going to be with paid host families. And every host family in the program is thoroughly screened, passes a criminal background check, completes a full application process, will have their home visited multiple times before the student arrives. And then, of course, we will always make sure that it's the right fit for the student when we look at the host family and once we receive the placement. But really, the host families in Canada, I've been always so impressed by them. Many of them have hosted many students in the past. So a lot of our host families are experienced host families. They've had the experience of hosting an international student before, so they're prepared to do it and they understand what it means and how important it is. But also many of our host families are in upper to middle class neighborhoods throughout Canada. And that just tends to be the communities that we work with when we are choosing districts. And then, that's where we try to focus our placements of students with host families. Canada also, in most districts, I can't say this for every district, but in most districts, there's a unique situation in that there are more host families than students. And so we're often, like I said earlier, when we started, able to make placements really quickly and early in the season. And it also allows us to be really flexible with certain requests. And in the unlikely, but sometimes unfortunate event that a student wants to be replaced, they want a new host family because they're just not feeling like they fit with their first one, we're generally able to make moves quickly and easily because of the abundance of host families that are available throughout Canada. Generally speaking, most of our host families are very active. They enjoy a healthy lifestyle. Again, the Canadians in most of the districts and communities that we work in are very active. They bike ride, they mountain bike, they rock climb, they hike, they jog, and it's a pretty active lifestyle in most of the communities that we're placing our students. Of course, our families are required to provide students with a clean and comfortable place to live. All of our students in the Canadian high school program get a private bedroom and 3 meals per day. So it's full room and board on this program, regardless of which district we place your students at. And we can accommodate specific dietary needs, vegans, vegetarians, gluten-free, whatever the request might be. As long as we're aware of it, we can accommodate it. This map, it's hard to keep this map updated because I am always adding new districts, but this gives you a good idea of some of the options that we offer. And you'll see we have districts all across Canada. We have big city districts, we have rural options, we have suburban options. So whatever your students are looking for, we have it. We just need to know specifically what they want so that we can make the best possible match. And that's a big part of what I do. You can email me and say, hey, James, I've got a 16-year-old girl. She wants to play volleyball. She wants to be on the west coast of Canada, and her budget is $25,000. What can we do? And we'll work something out, and I'll be able to make some suggestions and send some brochures, and you can present them to the student, and then she can decide specifically where she wants to go. But we have so many options in this program. It's really, really allows us to be flexible and accommodate very specific requests. Who can apply for this program? Really any student that has the maturity to be safe and successful on an international student exchange program. Like I said, generally ages 11 to 19 with exceptions. Students of any English ability. So we've had students come on the SMG Canada program that have zero English, and we're still able to accept them. We're still able to provide a safe and enjoyable experience for them. And often they leave at the end of their 5 or 10 months fluent in English, having arrived with very little English ability. So we could be really flexible with that. And we can also be flexible with previous academic struggles. If students failed in their home country in the past, generally in the United States, we can't accommodate those students unless it's at private schools. But in Canada, we can consider students that have struggled academically in the past. Not every district in the program will consider students that have struggled academically. But again, if we're aware of that limitation for the student, we can make sure that we tailor and we customize our suggestions and our recommendations based on understanding the student's capabilities. And then, of course, students that have specific requirements, whether they have a severe allergy or dietary needs, or require some sort of special support, those are the types of things that we can accommodate on the Canadian high school program. So who can apply? Really anyone, as long as you feel that they are mature enough to be safe and successful, then we'd be glad to consider their application. The visa process, so some of the more boring but also very important information about the program. Students studying in Canada apply for a study permit. Depending on where in the world you're coming from, the process can vary slightly, but the Canadian immigration website that details the visa process is incredibly, incredibly informative and clear. And so anytime anyone asks me questions about that process, I send them the link because it gives you step-by-step what's required, how long it will probably take, and of course, what it costs. But the study permit itself would be obtained using formal acceptance documents that are issued by the districts to SMG, and then we provide a letter of acceptance, custodianship, and all of the documentation that you need for the study permit application. Some countries that are participating in the visa waiver program can arrive to Canada without the study permit and then actually apply for it while they're in the country. When I talk about students that have come for short-term programs and extended, they're often students from those countries that allow us to get the study permit while the student is in the country, or allow us to extend a shorter study permit without forcing the student to return home. And that's actually the next bullet, is that we can do extensions. We can process extensions without students having to return home. And sometimes we have to get creative with those. With our districts that are closer to the southern border, closer to the US border, we do flag ceremonies where they take a group of students that are extending their permits, they drive them over the border, and then they drive them back over to activate it. But we always can get creative, and that's really how we are with this program. We're solution oriented, so we'll always work our hardest to find the best solution for your students, and that applies especially to the of course the study permit and visa process. The application process, just like with all SMG programs, we use the Exits online database. So if you've done an application for SMG in the past for our J1 or our F1 programs, then you know this system. It's very easy to use. Everything has to be completed online. It is a very long application because we use it not just for the school acceptance, but also to make sure we find a host family that's suited for that individual student. But everything is completed entirely online. You can complete it on behalf of your students, or your students can complete it and then submit it to you for review, and then you can submit it to us for final review. We generally process applications in 3 days, 3 to 5 days, depending on the time of the year, but it's generally a very, very quick process, and we don't turn away many students. Again, students that have low academic capabilities or low levels of English or special needs that are, they require some specific support, they won't have their full pick of all 35 plus districts that we have, but we'll be able to find something for them as long as they're flexible and possibly willing to compromise a little bit. And so we have a very high acceptance rate. We don't deny very many students from this program. I think in my 5 years, I can think of 1 or 2 students that we weren't able to accept. And then just from a marketing perspective, because I am a marketing person, I have to focus a little bit on this rather than just the administrative stuff, is, when we talk about Canada and the opportunities that the students will have, we've talked about the academics, we've talked about the athletics and the schools and the communities and how wonderful they are. But Canada itself as a country is a beautiful place. And there's so much for the students to explore. And we are able to arrange trips. There are a lot of school-sponsored trips the students are able to pursue if they want while they're in Canada, to experience more of the country. A lot of the districts in the urban areas do trips to the mountains for skiing and things like that. And so when you're talking to the student about the possible experience that they can have, of course, the academics, the athletics, the high school experience itself is going to be amazing and an authentic Canadian experience. But they're also, if they're an active student that likes to explore and do whitewater rafting, skiing, snowboarding, hiking, those types of things, there are so many opportunities for that throughout Canada. And it's always something when I'm speaking with students, I like to make sure I mention it, that they'll have these opportunities. I mean, even our students that go to Newfoundland, which is very cold and very snowy for a lot of the year. They have these experiences, there that you wouldn't have anywhere else, snowshoeing through the mountains and seeing the moose on the road and all those experiences. We get videos like that from students all the time. And that's something that's worth mentioning to the students. It's, of course, education is a big emphasis for us, but the experience itself is also, the overall experience is really important. And I think there's so many great opportunities in Canada and in an SMG Canada high school program that allow for that. I have a video here. I don't know how it will play through Zoom. It does kind of illustrate what I was just describing, so I'll send you the link. It's on YouTube. I love showing it to students because, again, I think it does represent a lot of the cool experiences that a student could have when they're in Canada. And so I always like to show it whenever I can. I'll send it to you guys in the recap and the thank you note that I send probably tomorrow. So just to review the highlights before we get to a little Q&A session, the SMG Canada program is extremely flexible. It's all about choices, and more choices. So if you can tell me as much as possible about your student, we can try and find the best possible match for them. The great outdoors, like I just mentioned, all the skiing, mountain climbing, hiking, biking, fishing activities that are available for our students. There are the excellent academics and athletics at all of the public schools that we work with. We have so many different programs that we can accommodate almost every budget and every term length that you might have requested. And of course, as with all of the programs that we're always talking about in these webinars, the Canadian High School Program for SMG includes our exceptional service as well and support for the students, but also the sales and marketing support for our partners. With all of that said, I know that was a lot. I have a feeling I may have talked a little too fast at points, so I apologize for those of you that I spoke too fast for. If there was anything that was unclear that I don't get to cover now going through questions, which I see there are quite a few that have been submitted, you can always email me and I can always, set up individual Skype calls as well. But let's go through some questions. Here's an interesting one. This first one is very specific. So if the question is, is a guardian required for students that are under 17, who acts as one? And so in a typical program, we provide custodianship. Students will have a custodian, which is typically a staff member of the district, but they'll also have their host family. So they have those two guardians. But this question is, can the parent appoint a friend or a close relative as the custodian? And on a case-by-case basis, we can review that. And what are the procedures like? It will depend on the district. So Simon, you can email me or we can talk on Skype about that one separately because it's very specific and a very unique situation. But the short and simple answer is yes, we can do that. Okay, so next question from Italy, from Christina. Hi, Christina. I'm glad you're here. We're usually suggested to apply for a study permit before leaving. In case of a short program to be potentially extended to one academic year, what is my experience about applying for a study permit once in Canada? So that's a great question. Generally, my advice is also, if the student thinks there is any possibility they want to stay and they might extend, they might as well just get the study permit before they come. But of course, there are always the students that decide or can't decide and don't want to do the process. And then they decide once they're in Canada that they want to do it. And we're able to do it. It's definitely easier to do from your home country than it is to do from Canada. So my advice would be, if they're considering extending, get the study permit in the home country and just be prepared to extend. But if for whatever reason they don't do that, we can still usually find a solution. It might just be costly, because those flag ceremonies that I talked about, they have to pay for transportation to the border and transportation back, and typically having visa application support in Canada. So it can be more costly to extend once you're in Canada than it would be to go through the normal process from their home country. So I would definitely recommend doing it from the home country if that's an option. And so the next question is, for students who wish to extend the program, it's actually on the same topic. For students who wish to extend the program, how do we support to renew the visa? Does SMG indicate who can help. And that's exactly right. So each district, we have partnerships and people that we work with that will support that process. So depending on which district they're at, that will dictate kind of how the process works, but we'll always be able to provide guidance and suggestions on the process. So next question is from Letty. How are you working with the homestays now with COVID-19 for students that apply since last semester? When's the date to send applications? So just to talk about, because we haven't really talked about it yet today, just COVID-19 and how it's impacting the program. Parts of Canada are already in their first phase of reopening. From what I understand, the schools are moving full steam ahead. They fully intend to open in the fall. But in terms of, working with the homestays and how it works with COVID-19, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis where all the host families will be informed of what's going on, which I think most people are naturally, but it's something that we'll make sure that they're aware of the situation, what the policy is, but there isn't actually specific policy set just yet on how to handle this situation come the fall, because we just don't know what's going to change over the next few months. But I can assure you we'll be prepared no matter what. And then the other question that Letty had was, what's the limit or what's the date or deadline to send applications? There really is no deadline right now. We're still accepting apps all the way through the year. And in past years, I've accepted applications in August and had students come in September. It's something that happens every year, and we're still operating that way. Of course, the later we get, the less options we'll be able to offer, but we'll always be able to find something. And do you have any updates about the September 2020 arrivals? And unfortunately, not really. I mean, it's pretty positive right now. I think a lot of people feel that the program will run. Whether or not there's a delayed start is still something that's being discussed. But again, there's been no decisions, as far as I understand, about no hard decisions about the fall semester just yet. So we're remaining optimistic. We're still getting applications. I'm in touch with the districts every day. They're preparing for, several different scenarios, but I think that the one that most people are focused on making happen is that they open and that they run as usual. So another just general question that I'm glad to answer, that said, many of our groups have canceled and we're not sure we'll get any bookings until 2021. What's the situation in the US and Canada? So we're certainly impacted by the current situation because there's just so much uncertainty. But in the United States right now, we have about 1,800 students still enrolled to come in August. We normally have about 2,400. So you can obviously we're lower, and we're expecting that number to probably go down a little bit with cancellations, but we still have a good number of students that are planning to come to the United States. In Canada, we're in a similar situation. We're at about 60% of what our normal numbers would be. And that's just because we've had a lot of cancellations and a lot of students that haven't proceeded with applications because of all of the uncertainty. So we haven't had all of our students cancel. Actually, most of our students that were already applied are still waiting and hoping to pursue and have their program. So we're staying optimistic. I'm staying optimistic as well. I have no way of guaranteeing what will happen. I don't think anybody really knows, but I'm hopeful. And it does seem like things are moving in a good direction right now. And I like I said, I'm hopeful that the programs will run and that hopefully our numbers will come up a little bit as well. One question, the applications are the same as the USA? They're very similar. So the SMG Canada application is in the same platform as the USA programs, but there are obviously different forms involved in each program that need to be signed and reviewed and everything, and that are specific to Canada. But the platform and the order of the documents, and you'll see many of the documents themselves are the same, but there are some slight differences. Does the insurance cover any accident during those sports academies like skiing, just in case? Yes. All of our programs in Canada include insurance, and they would cover general athletic injuries. The only time we get questions about that is when it's considered an extreme sport, And that's something that when they're enrolling at the academy, we just have to make sure how, look at how it's designated. But generally, yes, the students would be covered. Like, for example, with skiing, if a student injures themselves skiing while on their Canadian high school program, then that injury, whatever treatment they need for that injury, would be covered by the insurance that we provide. Question from Slavka: is it possible to change the host family when a student is not happy there? And the answer is yes, but also it does depend on what you mean by not happy. If we feel that it's a situation that can be resolved while keeping the student in the home, and it's just maybe a conversation that needs to happen or an adjustment in behavior that needs to happen, we're going to try and go that route first. We're not going to immediately resort to moving the student to a new host family unless we feel that it's a legitimate complaint or that it's something that's necessary. So it does depend, but we're able to move students quite easily in general on the program. Is there a possibility of spring 21 intake? I'm not sure I understand this question, Simon. I'm sorry. Right now, the fall 20 program is planned to run as well as the spring 21 program. And we have placements for most of our students that are fully accepted. So getting the host families in both the US and Canada so far has been pretty unaffected by the COVID-19 crisis. It's more a concern of the schools right now. What are the plans for quarantine in some districts, like British Columbia, for example? Will they be with the host family or in hotels? That's an excellent question, Pablo. I'm sorry, there is no answer yet. My expectation is that they'll be quarantined with the host family, but it's something that has been brought up a couple of times, and there's no set policy just yet. As soon as there is, I promise we'll put out a notice to let all of our partners that have students with us coming to Canada, we'll put out a notice to make sure that we detail whatever the policy is. But right now, there's no quarantine policy put in place. Do students have to take the LTIS test? No. For the Canadian high school program, they don't have to. We do suggest it just because we like to have a good understanding of the students' English level so that we can make sure we place them at the right school and put them in the right classes and ensure that they'll have the support that they need if they need it. But the Canadian high school program does not require the LTIS test. I just strongly suggest it because it does assist us in administering the program more effectively. You had a question, what is the price of the program? It varies. So each district has different tuition pricing, different costs of living in the community. So the homestay fees vary. So our net pricing ranges from around 20,000 Canadian dollars up to close to 40,000, depending on which district you choose. Someone asked, and it's okay, they said they joined late. They said, what's the shortest period a student can stay? We've done as short as 1 month program. It's definitely the most common or semester 5 months and academic year 10 months, but we can do as short as 1 month. I do a good handful of 3-month programs every year as well. Are schools being more flexible with the registration process and start dates for next year? The registration process right now is mostly the same. There's some leniency on like medical documents that you might not be able to get because the doctor's offices are overloaded with COVID patients, or school documents that you've been unable to get because the schools are closed. But generally those requirements remain the same. But with the start dates as well, I mean, I've had a lot of flexibility from districts in the past, even when there wasn't this crisis going on. So I do expect that there will be flexibility for students that need to arrive late. But there is no official policy on that just yet. Is there any obligatory quarantine when arriving to Canada? And if so, can it be run in a host family? Right now, there isn't. I don't know what the policy is going to be for international students come September for the Canadian high school program. As soon as we know, we will let you know. My hope is that it would be with the host family, but I don't know. Are we positive about the J1 program for this year? No, I'm not positive about really anything for this coming year, and I would never want to mislead you in any way. So no, I'm not positive, but I'm feeling very confident. And we've had word from consulates that are saying pretty much they're going to reopen in the next few weeks. They're going to issue the J1 visas. So the only way that the program won't run is if the schools don't accept students. And that's something that might just be on a school by school basis. But right now, from the information we're getting from the field, from what we're seeing in the news, from the schools, is that we do plan to have the program. Right now, we're hopeful and confident the program will run, but I'm certainly not positive. I wouldn't use the word positive, really, for anything right now. Do students have access to Canada's public health system, or do they have to be taken to the private system covered by their insurance? It's a great question. I'm not 100% sure. I know that our students never have issues getting coverage, but they do, or getting treatment, but they do have to go into their insurance and check which facilities are covered, which could include some of the public health facilities, but it may also include private. So that's something we would have to look at on a case-by-case basis. Do the students need to have any immunizations? Yes. British Columbia has more flexible immunization requirements, but Ontario, for example, has stricter immunization requirements, and all of those are outlined in the application. Very similar to the United States immunization requirements. Yes. So the next question, will they be covered? Will the insurance that's provided cover COVID-19 treatment? Is there any limit? It will cover it. The insurance we provide in Canada generally doesn't have limits on that type of thing. So you can assure all of your students considering coming to our programs, actually in the United States or Canada, that any treatment involved with the virus is covered. We've confirmed that with all of the insurance companies that we work with in all the programs. It would be treated just as if they caught the flu while on their program. Okay, I think I've gotten to all the questions, but yeah, I did just want to say that generally, I know there's a lot of uncertainty around the upcoming fall and even just the whole year ahead. And I share in that uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen, but we are prepared to run the programs. We are working every day to prepare as best we can to run the programs and to make sure the students are going to be safe and successful when they arrive. And so, I encourage you guys, if you have any questions, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to contact me and ask. I'm working every day. I'm here just working from home. I do miss the office a little bit, and I miss my haircuts. And I can't believe we're recording all these webinars that we're doing during this, crisis, and I'm at home without my haircut. So these videos will live forever of me with terrible hair. But other than that, we're healthy. We're prepared to run the program. We're hoping that things improve. It looks like things are improving, so we're staying positive. And we'll keep you updated as information becomes available. When there's more certain kind of decisions being made, we'll make sure that we notify all of our partners. And I hope that all of you are staying safe, staying healthy, looking after yourselves. And it's, again, I said it 2 weeks ago when we had a good turnout. I'm so glad to see so many of you here and asking questions and interested in learning more about our programs. And I hope that we can receive more students from you guys, and everyone stay positive. Things will get better. We don't know when, but things will get better, and we have to hold on to that. All right. So thank you all so much. I'll distribute a thank you note with everything that we covered with the presentation. We will eventually upload this recording to the agent resources and exits so that you can view it there just in case you need to check something. But of course, also, if you have any questions, please never hesitate to reach out. And we will be having an F1 private high school program webinar next Wednesday, so a week from today at the same time. We sent the invitation out. We'll send another reminder out, and it's just like this one. It's on Zoom. You have to register. We hope you can make it. My colleague Diana will be giving that one. And everyone else, have a great day and enjoy your evenings, your afternoons, and the rest of your week. And again, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure, and it really does encourage me to see so many people here today and participating. So many that I know that I've met over the last 5 years getting to visit you guys. So stay well, and I'll be doing a lot of these. So if you decide to join another one, I'm sure you'll see me again.